Well, good morning.
Good morning.
Come on, you can do better than that. Good morning.
Good morning.
All right, first thing before we start, I'd like all of you to take up your cell phone. I know you all have your cell phone. Take them out. And once you have your cell phone, please put on silent mode. That happens all the time. You think your phone is on silent and it's in the deepest pocket, the deepest part of your pocket, and the phone will ring. Feel free to take photos, especially take photos of this distinguished panel. And here's just another tip that I can share with you. Take nice photos of them while they're giving you tips, making presentations. Send them a photo afterward. Send them a thank you note so they get to know you, they remember you. This event is put together for you, for students. We are here, many companies are interested to be here to engage conversation with you because you are the talents, you are our future. Therefore, I have communicated with our panelists to turn this discussion more for you, not about us. We have done our part. Most of us have distinguished career in order to be sitting here to talk to you. But it is your opportunity to think about what your interests are and find that opportunity and find the right people and practice your interview skills, sharpening your resumes. So with that, I am going to ask each panelist to make a self-introduction very briefly about what your companies are and what is your career path, and then we'll come back for additional questions. And believe it or not, I'm saying, spam phone call just came in. All right, Walter?
Hi, everybody. I'm Walter Okitsu. I'm with KOA Corporation, and we're a transportation engineering and planning consulting firm with 6 offices in Southern California. KOA, it used to stand for Katz, Okitsu and Associates, and I'm the co-founder of the company. And we started a firm about it's been 33 years now. We have about 110 employees. Talking about my career path, or
maybe just
the students?
What is your specific background?
Okay, my background, my undergraduate degree is in computer science, and then I got a master's degree in transportation engineering, which points out one of the needs in our field is more people in systems engineering, computer science, and so forth. My son goes to school here. He's a sophomore in computer science, and he doesn't get it. You do traffic, but there's so much involved, big data, apps, and so forth, and there's a need for that in our industry.
Okay, great. Mike?
Thank you, Eric. My name is Mike Christensen, and I'm the Deputy Executive Director of Operations and Maintenance at the Los Angeles World Airports, or LAWA, as we call ourselves. LAWA is actually more properly called the City of Los Angeles Airports Department. And we own and operate 2 airports in the City of Los Angeles. One you may have heard of, it's called LAX. The other is Van Nuys, which is one of the largest general aviation airports in the United States. And as LAX being the primary focal point of air transport in this part of the Southern California region, we do about 88 million passengers a year. We have a massive capital program that's transforming the face of our airport. Our capital program stands at about $14 billion right now, and most of that expenditure will take place in the next 5 years. So you're going to see tremendous changes going on in LAX that are going to involve lots and lots of different talents and lots of different organizations and lots of different opportunities that will be presenting themselves, and hope to be able to talk a little more about that shortly.
Great. Thanks, Mike. Sue?
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Sue Lai. I'm a harbor engineer with the Port of Los Angeles. The Port of Los Angeles is a city department of the City of Los Angeles, just like LAWA is. And we are the busiest container port in the nation. Just talking a little bit about my career path. I'm a traffic engineer as well as a civil engineer. I went to UC Irvine and studied civil engineering, and I'm a second generation traffic engineer, so I followed my dad's footsteps. And I spent my first 10 years of my career working for LADOT, learning my craft, and I like to say building my toolbox. And then I promoted over to the Port of Los Angeles, where I've been since 2002. That's a little.
Thanks, Sue. We'll come back to you as well.
Okay,
John?
good morning. I'm John Lauer, Vice President with Iteris. Iteris is number one Latin for journey. We've been around about 25 years. We're a soup to nuts consulting through products firm focused on transportation and applied informatics. We're a leader in using the cloud with platforms to monitor, to analyze, to visualize, and to optimize the transportation network. So I've been with Iteris 10 years. Prior to that, the majority of my career was at the City of Anaheim as the city's traffic and transportation manager. My undergrad was in urban planning and a Master of Public Administration from University of Southern California.
Great. Carley?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Carley Markovitz, and I'm with Nelson Nygaard. I'm a principal in our LA office lead, and I've been with the firm for about 7 months now, so still fresh and new, but I'm very excited to talk to you all today. So Nelson Nygaard was founded by two women in 1987 and is a very values-driven planning practice. We are actively growing an engineering practice, so happy to talk to some folks about that as well. Truly multimodal. We do everything from transit service planning to emerging mobility and everything in between. So working with a lot of the clients and folks you see up here today, and am really focused on personally on Los Angeles. My background, I have started my career in transportation here and actually got my master's in planning and public administration here at Price a few years back, and have been working at LA Metro and AECOM prior to that, so have gotten a really great start here and looking forward to sharing more with you all today.
Great. I'm sorry I didn't get your name earlier.
Garcia.
Lane?
Yeah, I'm with the South Coast Air Quality Management District. We're the air pollution regulator in our area. We are headquartered out in Diamond Bar. We have approximately 800 employees, about a third of which are inspectors. So they're actually going to sites to look for threats, to look for air quality problems. But we are now moving into the area of looking at transportation. You would think that we should have always been doing that. We've always had a transportation group, but transportation management is handled locally through like SCAG or through LA Metro, and emissions coming from the transportation sector have been handled at the state level or at the EPA level. But we are now in like a shortfall status, which means that we aren't achieving the air quality reductions that we need to get, and that last bit that we need to get is from the transportation sector. So we are looking at indirect source rules, in the entire goods movement industry. So we've been working with the Port of LA, as well as the LA airport as well, to come up with different technologies and processes to reduce air quality threats from those ports. So my background is I got an environmental studies degree from Pitzer out in Claremont, and my graduate was in urban and regional planning as well from Cal Poly Pomona. I guess we'll come back to me later. So
Excellent. Thank you very much. And your name, I'm sorry?
Meredith Canterbury.
Very nice to have you. LSA, please.
Hello, I'm Meredith Canterbury, and I'm with LSA. And we are an environmental consulting firm, and we work all over California. We have about 7 offices up in near San Francisco all the way down to Carlsbad, and we have one in Fresno, and we have a few remote people actually out of state. And we do all environmental studies, NEPA, CEQA, for public and private sector. And I am a senior GIS specialist, and I started at Cal State Fullerton. I got my degree in geography with an emphasis in environmental analysis.
Great. All right. To help our panelists, I'm going to ask you to raise your hand. I know I don't really like to put you in the buckets, But raise your hand if you're studying civil engineering or transportation engineering. Raise your hand. All right. How about those who are studying transportation planning? Anyone from industrial system engineering? Outstanding. Marshall School of Business, anybody? All right, so you know the composition in attendance. So I'm going to ask, since our panel pretty much represents a distinct public sector and a private sector, I'm going to start with private sector consulting companies. Could you talk about what type of internships or potentially that could lead to permanent positions within your company that you could share with students?
Okay, I'll start at KOA Corporation. Actually, we have a need right away in our Culver City office. It's the Crane and Associates branch of our company, and it's for our marketing intern. But it's part-time, and you think in marketing, that's proposals, making materials, and so forth. But really, it's one of the great ways to understand how the industry works, especially for a part-time job. So that's in Culver City, and I'll just point out one of the senior planners who works for the city of Irvine started her career path with a job like this. We also have a need for planning interns, both in our, just a correction, the marketing intern positions in our Monterey Park office, so not far from here. Our planning intern position, we have one at our Crane and Associates office in Culver City, and also, some of you might be in the San Diego area this summer. We have a need for a planner in that position in San Diego.
Great. John, do you have anything to share?
Yeah, we've got 8 positions which we're recruiting for, a combination of transportation engineers and planners to assist us in our focus on optimizing the roadway network. So we do planning, we sell products to optimize, but our focus is on things like traffic signal synchronization type of projects, multimodal focus. So 8 internships spread across our 12 offices through the United States.
Thank you. Carley?
Yeah, so we are interested in interns, but frankly are also going to be recruiting in the very near future for a full-time position, an associate 1. We'll probably be putting out another closer to graduation, but we have a lot of work and a lot of exciting projects, so we're hoping to find someone in the very near future. So we're doing, again, in this role, it would be sort of jack of all trades, everything from supporting on different general plan updates that we have. We're doing comprehensive operations analysis, which is transit service planning for municipal agencies across LA County. We're also doing other complete streets projects that we have in the works and are looking to build on and add more of a practice. So we were looking to be putting out that posting. So please be on the lookout on our careers page in the very near future, and also stay tuned for another hire later this spring coming into graduation time.
What I know is I have actually printed out a whole list of our job opportunities. Like she said, we don't have a ton of internships, but we actually have quite a few positions open right now. The 2 off the top of my head that I can think of are Riverside. We have a planner position, an assistant planner starting out, so fresh out of college, good place to start. And also we have a traffic planning position. And I believe we have an environmental planner position in Irvine also. But you can stop by and talk to me later and see the sheet.
Walter,
if I can put in, I forgot. We do have for an entry-level civil engineer in our San Diego office, and that's available right now if you're interested.
All right, now I'm going to come back to public sector. Mike, any opportunity at the LAX or LAWA?
Sure. LAWA is about a 3,500 person organization that has a very broad range of job classifications, all the way from custodian to chief financial officer to attorney to civil engineer to planner. At any given time, excuse me, we have about 300 to 400 openings. Many of those would not be of interest to many in the room here because they would be at the craft level. But we are also looking at about a 20% retirement eligibility rate at LAWA. We're having The gray wave is getting ready to sweep over us in a big way. Between now and graduation, if you are interested in public sector, I would strongly urge you to go to our website and you'll see the full list of opportunities that are not just LAWA but the entire city family. So we have tremendous opportunity coming. Now that's just for LAWA. There are certainly a lot of other opportunities from our consultants and our contractors, which we could probably speak about more later.
Great. Sue?
I work out of the engineering division at the Port of Los Angeles, and we have about 8 student intern positions that are permanent. And I know that we have 2 vacancies right now that we're seeking to fill. And the Port of LA has a summer internship program that applications are opening up March 1st. So the timing is just right. And I'll have information at our Port of LA table in the next room on how to apply for that. And these are student internship positions just for the summer and throughout the department. So it's in engineering, construction, and other divisions as well.
Great. Lane?
We also have a summer internship program. It's also opening up soon. It's more for undergraduate level, but if you've never had an internship, it might be something you'd look into. We're almost always hiring. We just had an announcement last week for our inspectors list. We hire chemists and we hire inspectors and we hire planners and all kinds of different things. And the way that our agency works is we establish a list. And so once you apply and you get on the list, as the positions come open, then they'll call you in for an interview. So it's typically not, there's one position open, we'll like you to come in. It's more like we need to establish a kind of pool of candidates to draw from. So the inspector list just came open. We are also opening air quality specialists in the future. These air quality specialists will be in the planning department. We're looking for transportation planners. That's going to be coming up in the future as well.
Okay, could any panelists, could you talk about if your internship or full-time opportunity have certain requirements, for instance, whether status in terms of legal residencies, how do students find out that they are eligible or they are not eligible before they even put in their effort to apply to your job? I think probably between Mike and Sue, are you aware of any prerequisite?
Well, I could start out, which is probably somewhat applicable to Sue and the Port. You know, all candidates for the City of Los Angeles must be a U.S. citizen or have a permanent legal right to work in the U.S. And as a government agency, we're not allowed, unfortunately, to sponsor visas or to hire anyone whose right to work has an expiration date. So in order to go into the City of Los Angeles, you pretty much need to have those requirements. Also, at LAX particularly, many of the jobs require your ability to become badged, which is a security clearance of sorts, which allows you to work on the airfield or in the terminals. And that does require background checks, fingerprints, and so forth.
Good. Lane, how about you?
I couldn't really speak to the requirements. I'm not exactly sure. I know that there's not a citizenship requirement because I have a coworker who's not a citizen. As far as visa requirements, something I couldn't speak to. I'm not aware of that.
Sue, are you aware of any or supplementing?
Same as what Mike had said, but I did look into our student positions. We don't have any requirements.
Great. So let me, I know some of you attended our last session. Let me just give you a reminder as students, as you apply, as you review and pursue every opportunity which you're supposed to do, pay attention to all the requirements because there are certain requirements that no matter who we are, we have no discretion to alter those requirements. So you want to be very strategic. You want to understand what are the prerequisites for all federal positions. U.S. citizenship is required, and so you want to have your eyes wide open as you pursue opportunities, so that you don't find yourself investing a lot of time that leads you to nowhere. My next set of questions, again, is free for all of you, but I'm going to start with the engineering track of it. I know Mike and Sue and also John, you're all civil engineers or civil engineering background. Could you talk about how important is it for students to prepare themselves when they complete their first internship or a first full-time job as their EIT or PE? How would you select individuals based on those qualifications? Mike?
Sure, I could start that out. As Eric mentioned, my background is as a civil engineer. I'm actually a third-generation civil engineer, though what I'm working in right now has little to do with civil engineering, which does go to prove, if you're civil engineers in the room, you can do anything, okay? But it also shows that, you know, there will be tremendous opportunities and many doors will open in your career that you may not have been anticipating. So it's important to be prepared in every way that you can. And I think to that extent, in the interviewing that we do and the opportunities that we're able to extend, one of the real pluses is that ability to have an internship on your resume. And for those of you who are looking for your first permanent full-time job, maybe that's not going to be what you're looking at, but for those of you who have the opportunity to find an internship, that is a tremendous advantage to you when you come and interview, even with a public agency like the City of Los Angeles. As Sue had mentioned, where the port has internships, LAWA also has internships, and you can find those on the website. Those are already, we actually have a solicitation that's out right now for summer interns at the airport. But that would probably be the most significant thing I would suggest is do what you can to find an internship and have an opportunity to get some real world experience before you graduate, which will make you much more marketable and much more prepared for that important first interview on your first full-time position.
Good. Sue, would you like to talk about your experience?
Sure, and I second what Mike says. I can't emphasize it enough that outside real-world experience does give you an edge when you're competing with others for a permanent position. I also recommend that you practice. Practice your interview skills, practice communication, have people review your resumes. It never hurts to ask someone to review your resume and practice mock interviews with each other. I also want to point out that I brought 3 young engineers with me from the port, and 2 of them were former students with us, and one was a hire everyone gets on a list to get selected to get hired. But I brought 2. Sorry, I'm divulging here, but I brought 3 colleagues. 2 were former students that we picked up eventually.
I forgot you were a planner.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
how about it's free for all? What do you think they ought to do to prepare themselves?
I want to have some fun with you, Eric, because I've known you for 20 years. And Eric is like most people, but throughout my career, I've been mistaken for an engineer. I did hold the title of city traffic engineer at Anaheim for 20 years, but I think that makes a point. Traffic engineering in particular, you really don't have to be an engineer to do traffic engineering. Planning is a big part of it. You plan to operate the system. So as long as you've got some fairly strong math skills and are able to communicate, that will get the job done. As far as seeking employment, I think it's very important to understand what the company is all about. Not only what that particular position is looking for, but what's the big picture? How do they see themselves? Where are they going? What are they doing? Why are they doing it? And how are they doing it? So that when you get into the interview, you can explain how your skill set will help them get that job done.
Good. Walter, you want to add something?
I'll just say just 2 things. If you are a civil engineering student working on it, get your EIT Passive Fundamentals exam. no matter what you want, maybe you want to go into something else. Maybe you want to go into a completely different field. Maybe you got this screenplay you're working on. Fine, but get past the EIT exam while you can, and at least you've got that, and you have more options for the rest of your life.
Eric, I need to add, because that's an important point, Walter, but I think it could be broadened to say that have some shingle behind your name. The only reason I got that transportation manager position in Anaheim, which had an engineering requirement, was because I had AICP, American Institute of Certified Planners. So get some professional certification behind your name as soon as possible.
Lane? Carley, would you like to add something?
I should be taking notes from these guys, actually. This is very good advice. I have nothing really to add. Other than that, yeah, the American Association of Certified Planners would be a very good kind of feather in your cap.
I just have kind of normal advice is to look at the website. If you're interested in a place, look them up, research them before you go into the interview. I think that was one of the best pieces of advice that I got. And a little side note is put something on your resume that's going to be a good icebreaker. I got my job because I talked about a dice game on hobbies. I mean, it's something that gets them comfortable with you and familiar with you, and you're not just like, oh yeah, they have those, they have that, they check that part of the list. It's like, stand out a little.
That's a great segue, but I'm going to, I'd like to introduce Walter Okitsu. Walter is also the advisor to ITE chapter at UCLA. I think it's important for all of you to know that we in this industry long enough to understand that our industry is more than just engineers. We rely on each other, not only on planners, marketing, or accountants. I learned through my career, always find out who has the money and be friends with my accountants and CFOs. Right, Mike?
Yeah, and I'll just add Carlo Di Bernardo, you're the ITE Eastern chapter. The ITE, technically it stands for Institute of Transportation Engineers. Really, they're rebranding themselves as a community of transportation professionals, recognizing their planners, economists, statisticians, computer scientists who need to be in the field. So it's not just engineers. In fact, most of your chapter here is mostly in the planning and other fields.
So I'm going to turn it around and let the audience ask some questions. Then I'll come back towards the end for every one of you to give some suggestions, advices before we break out. How's that? All right, so now it's your opportunity to ask questions. So what are you looking for in terms of potential intern?
I'll start with that, and that would be show us some practical application. There's a big difference between those who get theory and those who get practical application, and the business world is all about practical application.
Great.
I'll add, I would say the number one thing I'm looking for is aptitude. I'm not necessarily expecting that anyone's going to come in with all the right skills and all the right experience, more so that you understand what the company is trying to do and that you have and are working towards those skills, and that you're demonstrating the potential and passion and interest in what we do and how you understand those connections, and really being able to bridge that gap between what you've learned and where you can go. Certainly for starting off, it's more so just being able to articulate that you understand where things really link together and how you're seeing the larger industry evolve, and being able to demonstrate that you're a go-getter and want to take on any and all opportunities. So I think for us, it's really just that drive and that excitement and enthusiasm, matched with the skills that you see on the resume.
Great.
I think, meeting the academic requirements gets you in the door for the interview, but what gets you the job after the interview is a demonstration of reasonable interpersonal skills, good communication skills. It cannot overemphasize the importance of those communication skills in any one of the internships we'd be offering. And the ability to be adaptable and to learn. Where I see interns succeed is not if they don't have to be the absolute sharpest tool in the shed, but they have to have the ability to be adaptable, and they have to have an attitude and a willingness to learn and then to apply what they have learned up to that point in a real life situation. So I'd say to be able to communicate, to be able to have good interpersonal, and to be able to have this great attitude that you want to learn. That's what really is what I look for when we interview.
That's outstanding. Sue?
I look for somebody who will get along with the rest of the organization. A nice person, and someone who is, like we said, willing to learn and help us be a team player and get the job done.
All right, so the question is, what sets your company or agency apart? What are the unique quality, mission, capability? So why don't we start with, well, the biggest seaport, biggest airport are here. So why don't we start with LSA and AQMD, and we will work this way around.
Well, to be honest, I think LSA stands out because it's, I don't know if this is for everyone, but it's very kind of family oriented. It's small. Everyone knows each other really well. We work well together. I mean, for example, I've been there 13 years, and the other two gentlemen I work with have been there 15 and 22. We've been working together for a long time, and we're a tight-knit family. And it was really nice to come into that. I have to say, it was really welcoming. Coming straight out of college, that was my first job. I was green. I walked in the door, and I've been there for 13 years. So I think it says something about the company of LSA.
Great. Len, would you talk about AQMD?
You know, our unique focus is the fact that we are trying to improve air quality, and so if you have a kind of public good, mission for yourself, this is a good agency to implement that. You know, we, as an agency, we're charged with improving air quality, and it's, we've been a government agency that's been looking at sustainability for generations, and so this is something that is now a trendy buzzword or whatever. It has been the last 20 years, but it's been our mission, and so if your mission is to serve the public good, then this is this is a good agency for you.
Yeah, it's a great question. I would say, it really starts with our company's tagline, which is we put people first. I think Nelson Nygaard stands out because of the values-driven approach to the work, kind of married with the fact that we are exceptional communicators and really are trying to take analysis and translate that into something that is understandable, digestible, to the broader community as well as other key stakeholders. So we have a really strong visual communications team, design practice where we do branding, we do a lot of different kind of concept graphics, and we do demonstration events in the field and with the community, really leading with equity, leading with accessibility as a focus. And so a lot of our work includes a component of that outreach and engagement and a communications. So it's really something that drew me to the firm and something that we build into all of our practice. So something that I'm proud of, and I think that we really look for from folks who get that and want to be part of that.
The Iteris goals kind of align with the broader transportation industry. That is to improve transportation safety, mobility, accessibility, and environmental outcomes of the transportation system. What distinguishes us is we go beyond just the planning for that to focus on the ongoing operations, because you build it to operate it. And that kind of gets lost in a lot of agencies. They're just on to the next ribbon cutting, the next ribbon cutting ceremony on what new thing can they unveil. But the operation of what has been built is key, and the key component of that is deploying technology for the ongoing monitoring of operations and then optimization of that. Iteris is a leader in the connected vehicle field, which leads to the automated vehicles. Every automated vehicle will be a connected vehicle, but the near-term opportunity to improve safety, mobility, and environmental outcomes is with connected vehicles and having the cloud resources in place to provide that ongoing monitoring, visualization, and optimization.
So I'm going to skip both Sue and Mike, since you're the biggest. So I'm going to ask you to talk about your company.
Okay. Well, my company, I guess the unique thing in one approach we found, if you speak Spanish, you are highly desired in our firm right now, because a lot of what we do is community outreach. That's the first step on in a job is reaching out to the community, and a lot of the work is safe routes to schools. We're dealing with the Hispanic community predominantly, and I only speak a little Spanish, but a lot of it, in fact, the majority of the work is done in Spanish. That's at the front end of a project, but we do the community outreach, the design, the planning, the engineering, and we take it all the way to construction management. So one thing about our firm, it's only about 110, 120 people, but we take it soup to nuts from the front end, promoting a project, all the way to building a thing and getting signed off.
Including drafting grant applications, helping your clients preparing grant applications.
That's what we're doing.
All right, so the question is, what should students do to get themselves better prepared or even more marketable so that you want to grab them before they graduate?
I'll start it off. I would recommend that you do what you're passionate about. You study what you are interested in studying, because that will open doors for you with your passion, with your interest in the subject matter.
I would suggest attending various professional organization lunches. Those are sometimes quarterly, sometimes monthly. Institute of Transportation Engineers, Intelligent Transportation Society of California, so that you're brought up to speed on what the current issues are and the direction that the industry is heading.
Yeah, I'll add on. I would also recommend WTS. It's fantastic for networking, not just for women. Everyone can go. It's fantastic. Very, very strong chapter in Southern California and LA. And that was something I actually feel like I missed out a little bit on when I was at USC for whatever reason, but I would highly recommend it, and I'm more involved now. The other thing, just in addition to following your passion, which I totally agree with, is to hone in on some of those technical skills. Like, I wish I had spent more time, refining my GIS skills or my InDesign skills, because those are things that we are actively seeking right now. GIS in particular, like 100%, the A1 or the Associate 1 we will hire will have very strong GIS skills. That's something we know we need based on the work we have. So just something to think about, where you can tie in your passion with a couple hard skill sets that someone can apply, especially in the consulting field. That's super valuable.
So let me just repeat the question, so just in case on the microphone. The question is, in a nutshell, is the difference between public versus private sector, especially for students. What decision and how do they make their decisions when they first started?
That's a great question. Yeah, so I got my internship at LA Metro actually by putting my resume in one of those piles at a career fair here. So it all, these things do happen, and it's all good news and upward trajectory from there. So I started in the environmental compliance and sustainability group at LA Metro, and then moved to transit operations. So was really grateful to see a pretty diverse swath of the organization within a few years' time. I think starting in either sector, you will just see a different perspective. So for me, starting in the public sector, it was a really good chance to move fairly quickly into managing some consultant work without necessarily having done a lot of the technical work myself in the private sector, which I'm now doing on the other side. So you get a chance to see a lot of different projects and different opportunities and work across different departments. There's also, just being on the public sector side, you're really connected to the community, and something I really valued and enjoyed, being sort of the front face of the work to Los Angeles. So it was a great experience to see kind of a broad swath of what, transit operations and transit looks like within a very large organization. So I think there's a lot of value to starting off in the public sector for that reason. With that said, and conversely, I think if you start in the private sector, it's really an opportunity. You can start honing your technical skill sets right away, which was something that I did sort of in reverse, given my trajectory, and then moving to AECOM, I built into that. But one thing that if you start in the public sector, it's a great opportunity to build relationships, to build connections, and understand the broader initiatives going on in the region. So I think you have really either is a great opportunity. It's more about, for you all, when you're asking yourself this question, what is the right sort of culture fit for you, in terms of, do you want to work with a diverse number of clients? Do you have any interest in travel, something that you can do in the consulting field, which is less likely in most of the public agencies? And what are the types of projects? Do you want to have a more diverse swath of different projects and skill sets, which may be possible, early on? But with that said, I do feel very connected to the public sector and advocate highly for looking out for opportunities there. So you really can't go wrong. It's just a matter of fit for the type of environment that you want to feel from the get-go.
And I'm going to ask both Mike and John, since both of them have gone through public and private sectors several times. So, Mike, take it away.
Sure.
You're a consultant.
I had about 25 years. My first 25 years of my career was spent on private sector, and then now I've got about 15 years in public sector. It's been, in my experience, typical that it goes the other way around. It seemed to be more often individuals start out in public sector and then will migrate to private. I did it the opposite, and I would very much support what has just been said about the fact that they're different. Public sector has more reliance on the why, whereas the public sector is more of the reliance on the how. As we, in the public sector, go to the consulting community, it's because we need the expertise. We need that additional piece of cutting-edge technology or the ability to do studies that we don't have the resources within the public sector. But in the public sector, we're setting policy. In the case of LAX, we're ground zero for the largest origin destination airport on the planet. Nobody has more people that drive in and drive out than LAX does. So you can imagine, those of you who are transportation planners, you can imagine, what a fertile ground that is for careers in transportation planning. In technology, we have lots of need for understanding connected vehicles, autonomous vehicles. We just designed a parking structure that has to last for 30 years. Can any of you say what the demand for parking is going to be in 30 years, or even what kind of vehicle is going to park in there in 30 years? And so we had to do some really out-of-the-box thinking about what that parking structure looks like, how we could repurpose it into an office building or something along those lines. So I think as you see opportunities develop, whether it's public or private, I think recognize that there are pluses and minuses to either one, but in your career, it's a high probability that you will be doing both. Or if you start out in one, you're going to end up in somewhere different. So take a close look at it and recognize the advantages. Go in with your eyes open. And I love what was said earlier, just what Sue said, is do something you're passionate about. Because if you do it because you're passionate about it, you'll do a good job. You'll enjoy the ride. And whatever door opens up, it will be a door coming out of a room that you enjoy.
John, I'm going to hold off your response for some more questions just in case they have. Go ahead. Okay, so let me repeat the question if I get it right. It's about your company's or agency's specific culture, either to grow your employees or to retain your employees. In the interest of time, I'm going to ask Lane and maybe, I don't know, how about LSA? What do you two firms, one is the agency and one is a firm, what do they do?
In LSA, they support going to school. If you go to school, they'll pay for a portion of it, as long as you're getting the good grades. And then you, I think, are kind of locked into staying there for a few years, obviously. They want to retain you. They've been working a lot about retaining. That's been a big thing as of late. So they're doing more with remote work. A lot of people, the drive, it's safe. Transportation is kind of rough. So a lot of people are looking forward to being able to work remotely and live a more balanced lifestyle. So we're pushing for that. And education, I'm offered educational classes all the time. We have Esri. I don't know how familiar you all are with GIS, but we're allowed to go online. We go to the user conferences. Also, we're pushed to be in business development. I mean, I'm in WTS, like you said, and that's how I know Vicky here, and it's been very beneficial. So, yeah, we have a lot of education programs and incentives to keep people with the company.
And for us, we have a tuition reimbursement, as most public agencies do, but I can tell you I've been with the organization for about 11 years, and in that time saw a transition from one management staff to our current management staff. And I can tell you our original staff that I was hired in was not very employee focused, and this current administration is very much so. In fact, this Thursday I have an all-day training for myself and a bunch of professional staff as well. So there is a great deal of focus on getting the old institutional knowledge, because we are graying out as well, and we have a lot of older people who are going to be retiring, and so there's this focus now on mentorship and transferring this kind of unspoken, or this knowledge that's not written down anywhere, the stuff that you just know, you accumulate. And so there's a great deal of interest in our management of getting those things to the younger generation. So there really is a lot of this mentorship program, training programs, a lot of different things that we do to bring our employees along.
I have something to add just real quick about that. At the Port of Los Angeles Engineering Division, we really pride ourselves in our design capabilities. And so we grow our individual engineers and help them. If they are interested in a certain aspect of design, we will help teach them that design with people who already know, who already have that experience. So I just wanted to add that.
Excellent question. So the question, let me repeat, if I capture correctly, is about the goals we have in maintaining and upholding our quality of living in terms of sustainability, what every agency or company is doing. I'm going to ask probably LAWA and Port of Los Angeles if you want to chime in, and then Iteris, since they are most contracts are out of public agencies. So would you like to talk about it?
Sure. Sustainability as a policy is firmly established at LAWA and pretty much all of the city departments as dictated by the mayor and the city council. And it has created tremendous opportunity, both from policy establishment and also design. As we look at ways that we can become more efficient from an energy standpoint, one of the things that I manage within my group is an energy unit, and it's an energy planning unit, which we're having a lot of fun with and trying to figure out ways that we can become much more sustainable on the energy we consume, and to look beyond just putting up solar panels, to look at ways that we can manage the energy a lot smarter. We also have, as a transportation entity, more sustainable transportation planning and also procurement. We just put in service a 20 all-electric airfield buses, which is new to our whole industry, borrowing the technology that Metro is now putting in and the City of Los Angeles on some of the roadside electric buses. We have a large electric vehicle fleet, and now we're looking at different options for EV charging and EV operations. So it's very much alive and well, and that is one of the things, if you are interested in on the policy side, that's where the public agency element is so important.
Yeah, sustainability relates directly to that mission of better environmental outcomes of operating the transportation network. Paying attention to how you operate it today incorporates consideration of those three revolutions: to electrify, to automate, and to share. On the automation front, Iteris did for the Federal Highway Administration the concept of operations for 100 vehicle-to-infrastructure applications. So automated vehicles will be connected vehicles. Connected vehicles will have significant market penetration by the mid-2020s. That gives them the ability not only to communicate with other connected vehicles, but with the roadway infrastructure. So getting the roadway infrastructure ready to communicate with those vehicles, to advise the most appropriate approach speed to the traffic signal ahead so that You reduce stops and starts and get better fuel efficiency. One of 100 VDI, vehicle to infrastructure applications.
Okay, we're running out of time, so I'm going to ask from the back, from the end of the panel coming this way. Think about that. If you are an interviewer, what are you looking for? As you receive 10s and 20s resumes, what are you looking for? What advice could you tell them to do so that they can put to practice after today's session, so they can really think about how they could be on the top deck to be interviewed? So I'm going to start with Ian.
Well, I will second what Carly said. Extra skills. For example, right now we're looking for a GIS person, but we also need programming. Now, if I had programming, I would be getting paid more and doing it. So, get a second skill. That's what I would offer.
Great, thanks.
Yeah, piggybacking on that, I mean, well-roundedness as well. You might not get the dream job right out of this graduate program. You might have to take whatever you can get, and that actually will build you, actually season you as a candidate. So, just anything that interests you, go towards that, and eventually that'll draw you to, I think, your dream job. So.
Yeah, just in terms of interviewing, assuming we've seen your resume and you've gotten an interview, we know you have great skills. So it's really just about how you present yourself, being confident, being passionate, intentional in your understanding of the firm and the connection to our work and what you're interested in doing from what you've seen. Doing your homework is the most important thing, and really being thoughtful about how you see how you could contribute to what we do.
Yeah, that's exactly where I would go. Iteris is a publicly traded company, meaning we're very transparent. Get on our website, see what we're all about, see what the positions are, and relate those to your skill set. And if there's a match, come see us.
Same as what they said, and with sincerity.
Ditto, get that internship and work on your communication skills, and pardon my cold.
And when you do apply for an internship, show up, be reliable. If you got a summer internship and if you're out for 3 weeks, you'll be less useful than somebody who's going to be reliable there and all the time.
Well, before I conclude and before I thank the entire panel, my closing advice to many of you is that if you look across this room, you're all the cream of the crop. You're one of the best. But even among all the best, you have to work really, really hard on every single opportunity, because regardless how many positions we have open, you multiply the number of universities across Southern California, there are a lot of candidates. So you must do your part to keep sharpening your own skills. Everything that every panelist has given you, make sure your resume is sharp, no misspelling, practice your interview, all those basics, because we're not going to give you a job simply because you're from USC or from any of the universities from here. You have to compete it. You have to work it. So best wishes for today, and let's give a round of applause for our panelists.